we're all in some ways looking to improve ourselves. And as men, like, it's getting harder. Like, it really is. You got vaccines, you got a host of different things right now that are out there. We've got estradiol and estrogenic compounds that are in our food, that are in our air, and we got stress primarily being the biggest one. And I think I've been saying this a lot lately, is that a lot of men, we try to carry our stress around like a badge of honor. And I'll be honest, since I've changed up my routine, especially with the herbs within the last year, I've noticed my body respond better to stress. Whereas a couple of years ago, certain things were having me fidgety, like literally feeling it inside of my body, thinking like something is going on with me. And like, a lot of people, take that out on drugs or various other addictions, find some way to release it, when, in some ways, we really do have to work on the traumas that we're experiencing, work on our mindset. But in other ways, we got to fortify our bodies to better adapt to the levels of stress that we're getting, because sometimes the stress just ain't going nowhere, at least not right now, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's gonna take a season and a really good approach to teaching and training your body how to respond to stress better. And it shows in different ways. So the Men's Wellness Club is really all about that. Testosterone, of course, is the key word that's been thrown around. And we feel the effects of not having low testosterone, but a lot of guys don't really understand when they're having it. And sometimes you can have high testosterone and it's having an effect on your body as well too. So there's certain things that, it's a key word, but really and truly testosterone is a hormone like estrogen, like dopamine, like oxytocin. And I did my sexual health and hormonal management workshop a couple months ago, and we talked about that in depth, talking about some of the same things that we'll be discussing here today in regards to how these, hormones are the disruption of these hormones in your body is really the precursor to good or poor health. Now, of course, the foods that we consume definitely contribute to the levels of health that we're having, but it's really how they, interact within the body and actually secrete or disrupt hormonal balances within the body. That's a major, major, major thing. It's not just all these metabolic things that we're accustomed to seeing and what have you, knowing, such as diabetes. We don't really understand the nervous system aspect of that. So we're going to go over that. The Men's Wellness Club allows, of course, for you to get any one of the herbs that I show you here, and plus my expanding collection, so to speak, because there are more that are not always listed, but things that I've been testing over the last few years, and just really trying to get the highest quality that's available. A lot of times these days we got to be concerned about whether anything that says that the name on the outside has the actual thing that's in there. That's a big concern for most people. And so the Wellness Club will definitely give you access to those herbs that I've got on a monthly basis delivered to you, with the option of 1, 2, or up to 3 of them. And guys, I will tell you, got stuff for the women too, because quite frankly, it's important. You can't get right without her getting right, especially if you got a her in your life. Now, if you're single, it's a little different in those cases. Do what you got to do for yourself. Right. But if not, you can't be, the balance got to be there. It's got to exist. So guys, we're going to go through it today. And as usual, you can show some love at the Cash App. I am Nakata, if you feel the need to. Now, in the last presentation, I mentioned the 5 major sources of toxins, and I think everybody knows this stuff, but it's like we really got to get on top of how we approach it, because a lot of times the food, even though the food is a big issue to us or what have you, we get used to it. We get used to basically taking a little bit of this, taking a little bit of that, taking a little bit of the bad with the good, so to speak. And then it becomes, before you know it, something that is a part of your life. And it's something that is not really that good for you, but you're nonetheless doing it. The water, of course, Like, I said this in the last class, and you can get that workshop it's available as well for download. Is that when Hitler gassed those people, they were intentional about it. You get what I'm saying? They were intentional about it. When our government took the same chemicals and turned them into chemical fertilizers and placed them in the food, they weren't intentional about it. So it's like, I don't know how you want to look at it, but it's the same damn thing. Of course, when you're gassed, it's the effect is more immediate. But when it's soluble or mineral soluble and they put it in the soil, the effect is not so immediate. So consuming these foods over and over, little by little by little by little, it adds up to the same kind of effect that allowed for the Nazis to control the population of people whom they controlled in those experiments. They were literally being controlled, as we are being controlled by the effects of these same chemicals that have been in our food, in our water supply, and the plastics and the products that we use, the environment, as you see here, our beauty and personal care products. And, of course, stress and negative thinking will always be a source of toxin that we don't really recognize for what it is, but it's the killer. It's the real killer. Everything else adds to this. The more estradiol you have in your bloodstream and other chemicals that are coming from food, water, and various other sources, you add that to the stress and the negative thinking that a lot of people harbor. And then you wonder why, they get so sick or they start deteriorating so fast. So even some of the young guys on here, man, y'all just need to know you can get these herbs and make them available for your fathers and your uncles as well too, because when low testosterone kicks in, like sexual dysfunction begins. But it's not just sexual dysfunction. Sexual dysfunction is like when you start really feeling it. You know what I'm saying? But it's really an overall autoimmune disease, so to speak. It's like your body's literally attacking you because these hormones are no longer being secreted, and there are a host of different things, reasons why they're not. But nonetheless, sexual dysfunction is when you be like, oh shit, I ain't getting it up like before. But low testosterone and high testosterone, there's always going to be a difference, especially for men who, like not being lean doesn't mean that you have low testosterone. However, if you do have, fat that or excess amounts of fat, that it usually turns into something that converts your testosterone to estrogen levels. So there's a hormone called aromatase that really does that. This is when you really look at the balance that's supposed to be happening between men and women in the first place, honestly, really, when you look at it, you can see how the hormones themselves are working like just within ourselves, but also between the opposite sex as well too. It's crazy, but so amazing, which is one of the reasons why, our relationships are so affected by these disruptions to hormones. Like our relationships are entirely disrupted. We've got a lot of women who, no matter how pretty and cute they are, they got mustaches and beard, and there's nothing wrong with the fact that they have it. It's just that we got to kind of understand why they got it. They have it because they have increased levels of testosterone, and it doesn't matter how nice and pleasant and sweet her voice is, like she does. And even if she does appear, now it doesn't mean that she's masculine in nature. It doesn't necessarily mean that, but this is what we're dealing with. And this is a byproduct essentially of the things that we're talking about, of the estrogens, the toxins in the food, as well as the social conditioning that most people are experiencing in their lives. Most women are experiencing in their lives that push them essentially to a more masculine state of being. So it is what it is, but these are the facts of it. So, like we've got a lot of different issues that we really want to, literally face with, hormonal imbalances or what have you, but some of it is just visual, as you can see. But T-boosting activities are some simple stuff as nasal breathing, non-ejaculatory abstinence for at least 7 days. Like your woman goes on a 7-day cycle. During that period of time, you shouldn't be ejaculating. You should limit it. And of course, I'm not saying that you're a failure if you don't, but the point is you got to learn how to build up, because everybody's, a promoter of certain things that increase hormonal levels of what have you. But this is one that is shown to do it, non-ejaculations for 7 days at least. Testicle tapping is known to do that as well too. Don't hurt yourself there though. And of course, increase sunlight to the eyes, increase sunlight overall, which is why, vitamin D3 is one of the top supplements for men to be taking, especially if you know already you're not outside for an hour a day. If you're not outside for a couple hours per day getting natural sunlight, you definitely need to be taking vitamin D. And depending on where you live, it might be a little bit more, necessary for you to do so during the winter seasons. So sperm quality at this point, it can't be up, when we have low T. Now, of course, what people don't understand also is that, even the whole ejaculation process of releasing sperm, like we think that all that is sperm. It's not. The mass majority of it is not even sperm. It's lubricants and, mineral constituents, and just cellular matter, so to speak. So, sperm quality can go down and you still have what looks like a normal ejaculation for the most part, but at the same time though, sperm quality, it's really hard to tell depending on what you're doing. So if you've been exposed, if you lived in a pretty toxic city, if you've been exposed to a lot of different things, you've been eating a lot of seed oils, which a lot of us here, we're basically raised off vegetable oils. And especially for the last 40 years, everybody was cooking those omega-6 oils. Man, they have been causing more damage than almost anything. It's crazy. And this is, if you Google it and look at the propaganda associated with it at the turn of the century, like this was some of the things that they knew was going to have an effect on our bodies and literally change how we behave as human beings. So the seed oils are definitely the killer, like you're saying, Sergio. Shout outs to you, Sergio. And guys, you can also take part in the chat if you're in here on Zoom. But yeah, the oils, the seed oils are major. And of course, it's hard to avoid. I mean, you can't avoid it if you eat out. That's plain facts. And you see, guys, when you think about this whole traditional masculine woman type of thing, and woman cook, man goes out to work or whatever the case is, but the bottom line is everything culminated with your woman cooking dinner every day. Like you can try to change the game and enjoy having some money or going out and or all these different things that we tend to become a part of in this social world that we live in. But not going out to eat is going to save your life. And I don't care if you're going out to eat at vegan spots, because me as a vegan for many, many years, I ate a lot of just stuff that were just convenient to me, because I don't eat almost anything else that's at the restaurant or at the place. I'm starving. And these are mostly starches that convert to sugar, which increases insulin and insulin resistance, which is also something that a lot of men are not even aware of. Insulin resistance and the excessive consumption of carbs, especially if you're on a vegan diet, so to speak, or you don't got to be on a vegan diet to be high carb. Most diets are high carb. But less testosterone are usually found within these things, which is obesity. Like I was explaining to you, the more excess fat that you have on you, the more it will convert testosterone into estrogen. Metabolic syndrome, which would be all your lifestyle diseases such as diabetes, high blood pressure, and all these different things that our family members have been stricken with, and we think it's purely because of how they eat, but we're forgetting that stress is a big factor to all metabolic diseases. And of course, insulin resistance. Now, for me personally, my cousin, came to visit me in 2020, went and got himself a pedicure. He's one of them kind of dudes, and he's an older brother, and he had a cut on his toe, didn't know it, turned into gangrene, turned into a lost big toe. It was crazy. Like, he even sent us pictures of it. It was disgusting to look at. But ever since then, I started to consider insulin resistance, being that there's certain symptoms of insulin resistance that most folks have, and it's easy to recognize, but you don't know what's going on. And insulin is a hormone, by the way. You understand what I'm saying? It's a hormone that's being secreted in the blood, and it has to do with how much carbs, rice, grains, and all this other stuff that they've pushed on us to eat. We're eating, and for most people, they're eating some heavy dosage of carbs every single time with every single meal, which is causing this. Even though some people, due to genetics, don't turn into fat people, or don't immediately have effects. But once he got the toe amputated, and he actually had some more toes amputated just as recent as last week. And you talk to these people and they think that they're doing well in many cases because they know everything, and they're not, because of carbs and because specifically of the effect of carbs and sugars on their bodies with insulin. Like insulin, excess insulin is a killer. And of course, the last one is non-alcoholic fatty liver syndrome, which any kind of injury to the liver is going to affect hormone secretion, because it has a lot to do with hormones. And a lot of us, even as health conscious people, are not understanding some of the ways that we may be contributing to a fatty liver, or just a toxic liver. In some cases, it's you having too much prescription medicines that you've been taking over years. I'm dealing with people like that. But the dietary causes of low testosterone are easy, to really kind of look into. And this is one of the things that may be on the verge for some folks, because zinc is the key, is a big key towards, the overall balancing of hormones in men and women in many cases. So, and it's required, as you can see, for spermatogenesis. And, it can lead to hypogonadism, which is, dealing with the testes. So like, you really got to understand how really, really important, zinc is to testosterone overall, and of course to immunity. And if you know this already, and you consider the correlation between zinc and testosterone, that when you have low zinc and your immunity is low, your testosterone essentially in that moment or in that time is low as well. And of course, you can find testosterone, zinc in animals, meat and fish, as well as a variety of different legumes. They may not have them as concentrated as the meat does. And of course, the meat, depending on how it's raised, what's in it, for the most part, may not have it in high levels neither. Especially if it's not grass-fed animals or what have you. Selenium is also a big one, which everybody is kind of getting onto now. I have a pretty nice selenium supplement, an L-selenium supplement that I take these days, and it has so much to do with testosterone, but not only testosterone, a lot of other neurological functioning within the body. This is something that, if you're not taking a good one, which of course, guys, remind me, I can put in the chat one of my links to get the exact ones that I take. And, you can do it yourself as well, look around. But Brazil nuts, I eat about 3 at a time in a smoothie. Green vegetables, mushrooms, you got to get your selenium up. But these days, man, you got to supplement. You really have to find the balance between both. Vitamin E is another one that a lot of men are not really on top of, but you got to make sure you get these. It can be found in almonds and olive oil, which is, even though olive oil has a healthy amount of omega-6s, so to speak, it's mono unsaturated. So it's a little bit more tolerant and is best fresh, as you know. But, most of us really never really get any fresh olive oil. As a matter of fact, I had some imported from Greece a few years ago, and the difference between the store-bought stuff and this fresh stuff it's amazing. Like, if you've ever had fresh olive oil, you know what I'm talking about. But you can eat the olives as well too, and they have quite good amounts of zinc in them as well. So, a good vitamin E supplement, it may help you in combating any kind of zinc deficiency, because zinc has to be replenished. It's not something that's going to stay there very long. You understand what I'm saying? I have a good vitamin E supplement that I have, and it's also critical for the women too, especially if your woman is in the childbirth and age range. And of course, like I mentioned before, vitamin D deficiency, like we're solar beings. who spend 90% of our time inside. 90% of our sunlight time inside. So, vitamin D supplementation has been proven to help increase testosterone levels. These days, I'm taking a D3K2 formula that seems to be pretty good for me so far. Ever since the Rona, I've been really better at taking the vitamin D because I've had to be up close and personal with people with COVID. And I'm happy to say, I'm pretty damn immune to the shit, So another one is magnesium deficiency, required for vitamin D activation and functioning. So, and 300 other functions within the brain and the nervous system as well. So a lot of us don't understand that even on a vegan diet or even on whatever diet you think you're on, like if the food is missing in minerals, and if you can't find the minerals itself to supplement with, you're going to be in trouble. One thing is going to lead to another, and then boom, vitamin D triggers an effect on the effects of low testosterone. It's really easy to get caught slipping out here, and of course, another thing is soy consumption. Now, I used to eat a lot of soy back in the day, and I curved off of it early as I began to eat it. We understand the convenience of it, but we're also talking about trace amounts of soy that's in damn near everything. Like you don't even count that sometimes. But if you're eating out or you're eating any kind of processed foods, it's almost guaranteed to be there. Now, the issue with the soy is not the nutritional content, it's the phytate content. So the phytoestrogen and the phytate. So it blocks absorption of some of these other critical nutrients that we're talking about right now. So if you're blocking absorption, then you're not going to feel any or get any of the benefits of some of the benefits that the food itself may bring to you. So it's really, really, really important for us to understand, how low testosterone, is a trigger for poor diets. Lots of research out there showing that the patterns predict low testosterone levels and hypogonadism. So we have chemicals that are literally out here and are also embedded in the foods. So another is breads and pastries, because in its essence, like right now I consume no wheat, no grains at all. And so in its essence, grains, they have a fermentation factor that happens. And of course, when turned into flours, they have a mucus and a pasty action in the gut. So they're hard to digest. But while they're in the digestive system as well, we're talking about something that's going to ferment and has within it, especially these modified grains that we're dealing with, because we really don't eat many grains in their natural form. So a lot of folks are, getting some spelt and going to these other things. But what we got to understand, especially people of the last couple hundred years, you need to understand that a lot of this heavy starch food is it's slave food. Quite frankly, it's just it adds carbs to you. So that way your body can burn carbs as an energy source versus fat or ketones. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you stay fat, work hard. If you eat the stuff that'll make you fat, but work hard and work it off, then you won't ever notice it, so to speak. But the bottom line is, after years and years and years, it causes other effects to the nervous system because of the breakdown it is. And a lot of people are not cleansing seasonally, which would always be important. And of course, dairy products are also triggering of low testosterone. So there's so many different things. Desserts, which are high sugar, which increases insulin levels as well. And other runner-ups, reduce consumption of leafy greens. Like a lot of people don't do that. And some people, this research was saying that reduced consumption of noodles. And the reason why noodles would be good for anything is only because they're fortified with certain vitamins and minerals. So if a person who really doesn't have a good consumption of leafy vegetables and is not eating something fortified, then they're going to end up, with these symptoms, so to speak. So you got sugar, you got all kinds of things that you already know are killers. But the issue is that we don't understand it. And of course, eating out, like I said, man, you're not going to any kind of place where they don't have vegetable oils that they're serving you. It's just hard to find. And men, I'm telling you, if there's one thing you can change right now, throw away anything that says canola, cottonseeds, sunflower, or even safflower. And I know so sunflower and safflower oils are lighter, you hardly taste it, and definitely no soybean, but you can't be using those oils. Like, as a matter of fact, I've been doing a lot more history on my grandfather and the way they lived prior to moving out the hills and down into a more town kind of area. Man, these people they lived off animal fats, particularly beef tallow and probably some lard, you know what I mean? And he was farming till his 70s. I think, and most of us know that he died more so of depression from losing his wife. Like, we're talking about somebody who never ate at a restaurant, essentially, never ate no synthetic anything. He grew almost everything that he ate, or my grandmother cooked. And, she was the market lady. So he'll bring in the food, she'll take it to the market and sell it, so to speak. So it's like this lifestyle that is practically invisible these days. Some poor people, quote unquote poor. I don't know how poor you are, because they're actually the richest folks on the planet if they have access to clean vegetables, clean soils, clean animals, to eat saturated fats, to eat not, fresh greens versus all these processed high starch vegetables that most of us are eating. Like, it's crazy. So the plant-based oils would be coconut oil, avocado oil, and olive oil as a dressing. Like I said before, it should never really be cooked. I don't cook with that anymore, which we've all probably cooked with it before. But the value of the saturated fats, and avocado is nutritious and it's low in omega-6s. And coconut oil, as we know, but there was so many different propaganda information on coconut oil over the last 30 years. And so for the last 10, 15 years, people understand the benefits of it more, but it was just propaganda to get you to buy more vegetable oils, when people have been using saturated fats to cook their food in since forever. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we, with our new school philosophies, we love to change stuff without even understanding history. But, like I love to say, you said, one thing we learn about man is that man don't learn from history. You know what I'm saying? We're likely to repeat the same shit over and over, even if you have some tangible sources to say, hey, don't do that. And, and we've been conditioned to look at those primitive things, like what my grandfather did, as, nonsense or old school, and nobody does that anymore. You get what I'm saying? But the best cooking fats will definitely be coconut oil, beef tallow, any kind of good lard that you can get. I've heard of duck fat. These I haven't used. Some of them I haven't used. Ghee, grass-fed ghee, which is a clarified butter, that one is really, really good. And, for a lot of plant-based people, what you got to consider that you could get from the ghee or even butter is vitamin A. Vitamin A is in low supply for most vegans, and it's very important to eye health, plus a host of other health issues that you may have. These saturated fats, are they're where you get real sources of energy from. Because right now, a lot of us, our body is carb fueled. So we're just burning sugars for the most part as fuel, the carbs that they're giving you, and your body's not, and as soon as it breaks down faster. Let's just be honest, it breaks down faster. So it's like, the carb lifestyle is usually excessive sugars in the form of processed foods that have sugar, but also these, yams and potatoes and these pastas that a lot of people are having. We're talking about rices as well. We're talking about even quinoa, even though quinoa is more of a seed, but the carbs in that is high. I was killing myself with quinoa at one point, not really realizing I was overdoing it. So, people who eat meat got to consider, like, you can't eat much meat out here. Real talk. It's really hard to find good, clean meat. But if you can find wild-caught salmon, that's a higher quality meat that will have omega-3s in abundance, probably the second or third best amounts, or if not the highest. And then, of course, the second and third will be, clean sardines and mackerel. You would want to avoid certain things. Now, these are things that when I was a kid, not the salmon, I was eating these things, sardines and mackerel. You know, we grew up with that, didn't even understand the amount of fats, omega-3 fats that are available in these two fish alone, sardine and mackerel. So if you can't afford salmon, you know, you definitely can afford sardine and mackerel, but most people will look at you sideways for eating these things. You know, of course, you know, we have the cows that we have these days. You know, I'm not going to complain too much, but they are genetically modified animals. So, you know, if you were going to eat a beef, the most ideal beef would be bison, you know, or something wild, something still wild. So, but the best alternative to that would be grass-fed beef, which is, you know, it's a popular thing these days. It's a popular thing for the last 15 or so years. There's much to be learned about the nature of grass-fed cattle, but there's always that. And, you know, you got, I've lived in a country before where people go out with their guns and bring back all kind of wild stuff. And, you know, I was listening to somebody the other day who was saying he was in Africa. He ate some bush meat and he was like, the shit tastes just like chicken. It's like everything tastes just like chicken. So, you know, and then you have wild cod liver, which is something that you will rarely eat. You know, cod is a pretty hard fish to get fresh anyways, but it's out there. It's a nice white fish, and the liver itself is just omega-3 heaven for the most part. It's really hard to find them, but there is a good company. I forgot the name of them. They have a BPA-free canned cod liver, so it'll have the oil in there already. And of course, taking the cod liver oil. So these fats, if people don't understand it, regardless of what diet you subscribe to, they're healthy for us. And it's not just one kind of fat we need a variety of different kind of fats. And for men, you know, we need to understand that the nervous system in many ways is triggered by fats, because hormones, in a way, they're like fats. And so we really got to understand where we're getting these fats from. Like meat more so is for proteins. But, you know, most meat or most animals will have some saturated fats that will have a positive impact on your body. So, you know, you also got essential micronutrients that I was mentioning before, but I have a list of these that are pretty good. You got to get the selenium, and you got to get good iodine in, because the truth is you're just not getting it from the dirt these days. You're not. You got to get that good magnesium. And I've been doing some research on some different kinds of magnesium. Magnesium citrate is probably the most popular one, but, you know, glycinate, taurate, malate, they have different forms of magnesium that are really very, very impactful on your system if you just know how to shop for them. The right potassium is key, especially for anybody dealing with high blood pressure. Most of the times what happens is potassium and sodium kind of work in tandem. So if you have too much sodium, then you're going to have the effects of high blood pressure. You know, but sodium is not really what's causing the problem. Is the lack of potassium in the system. B12 complex and B vitamin complex, that's important, guys. Everybody knows that by now, but that's important, as well as a good zinc. You get away from those old school zincs. You got to get into the picolinate or the glycinate, biglycinate forms of zinc as well too, things that are more absorbable. Other than that, you got to get it from the animals that you eat, which would be zinc loaded animal, shellfish, oysters, and some red meat or what have you. So a lot of vegans need to find the right kind of zinc, because not everything is being absorbed. And of course, omega-3s, we need our omega-3s, especially as vegans. So like being able to get an adequate amount is not guaranteed, because the rest of the world is not getting good fish anyways. So it's like, you know, not having any of that stuff is definitely affecting those who are plant-based, and they got to really, really consider that. Now, of course, adaptogenic herbs is really the go-to terminology that I'm using here. And I'm just listing a few of them here because I do happen to use a variety of them personally. And I like using, you know, switching it up for the sake of, you know, basically knowing what's, you know, going with what's best for me. You know, really like knowing that, okay, there's so many different ways to quote unquote skin a cat, is not what they call it, but to do something. So you'll find that a lot of these herbs are very, very similar, but it's really about learning how to combine them, or learning how to deal with the one or two that works for you, you know, because some folks use some nettle root, and that'll be the shit for them. Like it works effectively, and they may not even have to use anything else. That matters. You got to really understand what works with your body better than what doesn't. So, like having variety is for a reason. It's with purpose. So like, some of the ones that I have in the formulas, of course, is the Mucuna pruriens. I've got the African Pygeum bark on the left-hand side. Of course, I'm using the nettle root. Guys, I started this whole thing with Polyrachis ants, which is called the herb of kings, actually. People don't know about it. It is grounded up ants. I know it sounds crazy, but this is the most bioavailable zinc. I'm actually out of that right now, though. This most bioavailable form of zinc that you could consume on the planet. You got the saw palmetto berries, which guys don't know about this much, but like our indigenous people, when we would run away, especially in the state of Florida, they would eat or suck on these berries, which they're very hard when dry, if anybody's ever seen them before. But basically, keeping this berry in your mouth will allow for you to run for days, without food. So it's been clinically proven. Like everybody knows about saw palmetto at this point, but just showing you where some of it comes from. And another one, corn silk, which is dealing with the urinary tract. And you'll notice that some of these herbs deal heavily with the urinary tract, particularly the African Pygeum bark. And I've included that in one of the formulas simply because it's such a powerful prostate toner. For the guys, that's in the Prostate Builder. That one right there, for sure, is going to switch it up for you. And you'll notice like incontinence being relieved, BPH, any kind of swollen prostate effects, you'll notice a big difference. There's also the Fadagio agrestis, which has gained a lot of popularity over the last 6 months or so since your boy Andrew, what's his name, Huberman podcast talked about it, and he went on Joe Rogan's podcast and talked about it there as well. And then there's this one called Myria palma. I've never tried that one, but I'm very interested in it. This is something that the great Dr. Layla Africa recommended many years ago. Tonkat Ali has been very popular. That one I've used lately because of the same guy I was talking about it, but it's been known to increase testosterone. But what you'll find from all of these sources, is that they'll tell you, oh, may not, because they don't want you to know that that these things actually do work. And they're saying it does improve, it's not proven. Of course, science wants to prove everything when they know everything comes from plants. Some others that are really good for all around use, of course, is ashwagandha. Ginkgo biloba. I use ginkgo in combination with ashwagandha, especially when I'm going hard in the gym. That really helps. Rhodiola, that's an old school favorite of mine. Really helped, drive many distances and just keep your energy up. Like all of these are adaptogenics. They help you deal with stress, especially physical stress. And especially guys who are working out, it's important to understand these things. Sejandra, this one is very good, like in some formulas. It's a great, it has like 5 different flavors. It's a little berry. It's very good. I love it. Very energy boosting, and it has great properties for the heart. Everything it's really good. Ginseng, of course, you got to get the right ginseng though. And maca. I've been using maca for years. I think my first 2 children were attributed to maca for sure. So yeah, those are some of the things that some of the adaptogenics that are out there, and you should get familiar with, especially corn silk. Anybody dealing with prostate issues need to understand, because I had another class probably a year and so ago warning men and letting men know you will develop prostate issues out of nowhere sometimes, especially when you're dealing with women whose pH balance is not that good. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how impactful your prostate is. A lot of it is bacteria. Bacteria is causing a lot of prostate cancer. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be careful where you slide. And if you slide in too often, you got to cleanse it out. So this is game that you really need to understand, because our parents are not giving it to us. Another one, that you saw me list there. I love this one. This one I've been experimenting with a lot lately. As a matter of fact, I'm recommended mostly for men, but I've been giving it to women lately, and they've been experiencing some really good results. Some people that I'm dealing with right now, because this is like a brain kind of thing. And testosterone within itself, and all hormone secretions actually, deals with the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. This herb here, Mucuna, is a bean, actually, a legume, and it's high in zinc, just like we were talking about earlier. But this thing builds fertility in men. It's actually been proven in many ways to increase fertility or in infertile men. So like you're talking about volume, sperm count, sperm motility, better, ability to bounce back for another round, which I don't recommend, guys. I don't recommend the double rounds or none of that. Give it one great round, or don't release and come back again. It's very potent in increasing the libido for both men and women. That I've been seeing. It helps. If your woman has vaginal discharge, it's going to help there. Excessive menstrual bleeding, spermatoria, involuntary ejaculation. I know somebody on this call, we did have some conversations about that, and I recommended some stuff. But the Fadagio is supposed to also help in that case, but all these herbs, especially when using in tandem, they make a big difference. It makes men last longer, and it builds muscle in those who are weak. It helps women increase lactation when breastfeeding. This is actually the most popular known plant-based source of treating Parkinson's disease. Deals with depression because when it's actually called the dopamine bead. And so like its ability to stimulate the movement of dopamine, which triggers testosterone, through the pituitary gland. This stuff is great stuff, especially if you were an athlete before, you had some injuries, some sports injuries. If you're trying to cleanse up, get your seed right before you have children, which men need to be thinking like that when it comes to having children. Deals with, improving cognitive function. It's very good stuff, especially if you're a high stress person. This one is really, really going to help, which I do warn on the package that you definitely don't want to be using it as an antidepressant because it will improve the mood. We got here the Prostate Builder, which has saw palmetto in it. And man, I cut off this portion of the present on the right side. Sorry about that. Saw palmetto and nettle root and African pygeum bark that I was telling you about. I really couldn't even list all the stuff that is talking about pygeum bark here, but it's still a relatively unknown to most people, even though the tree is in danger for people using it, but they use it more so in Africa, it seems, than they do for the rest of the world, even though the rest of the world have been having researchers on it for the last 20 or 30 years, just showing it, especially for any man who has enlarged prostate, BPH, it's definitely, effective in helping with those cancerous prostate cells. This is, and you notice and you feel it, especially if you don't have any prostate issues and you just want to feel a little bit more power, because the truth is most of us from our diet, from stress, like your dick don't look up to the sun no more, and it needs to. It don't need to be a 90 degree. It needs to be higher than 90 degree. So these are the type of things you start early before you start dipping, especially if you're still relatively young as a man. Like it needs to be, looking up. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of us, we're losing that because of everything, just like everybody having these problems. But the Prostate Builder, I definitely feel like it's one that you eat, you feel boom. And I also have stuff for the women. I've got 3 formulas. I'm not talking about them in depth today, but 3 different hormone balances for women who are dealing with imbalances, including PCOS. Like real talk, you got a lot of women who have high androgens, high testosterone levels, and they need that balance, or else, their moods, or they're gonna have a lot of acne, and you can tell sometimes when the bumps are like, rosy and plump, and there's no solution for her. It's high androgen levels. So women really need to understand what's going on inside of their bodies, not just from the stress point of view, because the stress point of view is important too. The more stress she has, the more testosterone essentially she needs to defend herself in this crazy world. But the cysts that these women go through, that there's so many different things, but you can tell sometimes when the bumps on her face or along her jawline, or if she's even having any excess facial hair or what have you. Like we got stuff for that, because like I said, you can't be straight if she's in balance. Like it's really not about that. And another one that I have that's not listed here is the pine pollen. And I think a couple people here bought that from me before. The pine pollen is really for the guys who are working out heavy, who are looking for phyto amino acids. You'll see that on the page if you go to Hard on Break and click on the herbs tab. But the pine pollen, I love it because it's also one of the only, if not the only, natural source of vitamin D3 in a plant. So, you know, we're trying to get vitamin D3 from every possible source that we possibly can. But real talk, outside of supplementing, is just really not very many places that you can get it, tell you the truth. So, you know, it's called, cholesterol, cholesterol. I'm saying it wrong. That's what the vitamin D3 substance is called. So it's not everywhere, but it is in pine pollen. So guys who are working out, we're looking for a T boost. Everything, for the most part, results in a natural T boost, a natural energy boost that you got going on, that you'll feel almost immediately. Like I put some of the pine pollen in my smoothie. Actually, I've been doing that lately, and I like it, man. I don't taste it, but I like it because it's pretty good. And I also have a tincture of it available as well. The tincture with it and the nettle root. That's really T boosted. Guys, there's so much stuff. I'm just at the beginning of this right now. I hope you guys are still with me, because we're about to open it up for if anybody who has any questions. We just talk about whatever in regards to health, but you know, testosterone being low, all the different things that are happening to us has a lot to do with how you feel. So, you know, guys, definitely hope that some of these herbs can be of use to you, no matter what age you are, you know, because at the end of the day, like young men, you know, you can end up with swollen prostate. You can end up with all kind of little issues just from sleeping with the wrong person. You get what I'm saying? Urinary tract infections affect the prostate. Bladder infections affect the prostate. Some of these herbs that I'm talking about, especially the Pygean bark, it's something that's going to help cleanse the bladder. So you need like deep action, especially some of these guys that, you know, been sleeping around a lot. That's why I don't even recommend that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Not anymore. But the Men's Wellness Club, guys, if you go over to heartonbreak.com right now on the herbs tab, or if you want, I can also put it in the chat here. You know, you can sign up for the one herb, and that's $45 a month. Anybody who's considering getting 2 or more herbs, just let me know, because I don't have it available for you to purchase on the website. But if you let me know, I can get you manually signed up for that. But yeah, you can get 2, 3 herbs. And you know, if you want to do, if you're in a relationship, you're married, you know, you might want to get something for your wife. And anybody doing that, getting 2 or more herbs, we're going to do a free consultation, a free health consultation. And, you know, you can get your lady involved for the most part, trying to assess where she might need it, where she, you know, what could be beneficial for her. And also, you know, something that balances you guys out. So sometimes you might need 2, sometimes she might need 2, or she just may need 1, depending on her age and what she's got going on, guys. So yeah, man, this is the new Men's Wellness Club. And I'm really happy about this, because it's been, the monthly cost for 2 herbs will be $75, and that of course includes the delivery of it as well too. I'm really excited about this, because you know, I got some secrets that's gonna make it so that you guys are literally gonna love the herbs. You know, because you know, everybody's trying to get stuff online, and you can go ahead and get stuff online. But I guess I shouldn't say it so gladly, but I kind of mean it in the sense that, you know, we think we can do everything most of the times, and we can, you know, and I do the research so that way some of you guys don't have to. And like I said, sometimes you got these herbs that they're selling you that are not real, you know, just like they're not what they're cracked up to be. So, you know, we've had to down here create a company to make sure that I can actually get the actual whole herb and pound it myself, or turn it into powder myself. So that's why it's monthly in nature, because I don't want to have your stuff sitting around. You get what I'm saying? Some of these things I want to powder fresh and get to you, specifically like the seed cleaner and a few others, and get it fresh to you, and you're going to get better fats, you know, better fats inside of these things. Because sometimes you buy some powders, man, I'm telling you, you don't know how long that's been sitting in somebody's laboratory. You get what I'm saying? You don't know how long that's been sitting in somebody's laboratory. So you really need to get fresher things. And honestly, what I've learned at being a connoisseur of herbs is that the freshest, best herbs come from somebody who lives close to where it grows, and they just pick it and collect it and sell it on eBay or somewhere like that. Not particularly Amazon, you know, but sometimes you can find good, fresh stuff there as well too. So whole purpose here, guys, is just to keep the information going. I do my monthly live community support calls, and I'm always having a focus on health there as well too. So, any questions that anybody has, I'm definitely down to answer, and we'll keep it going, because there's, like I said, there's more. Like I'm getting back the ants in stock again. And no matter how gross it sounds, guys, I'm telling you, it's one of the most potent herbal elixirs. It was kept as a secret. It was like only reserved for monarchs. And like it's very rare these days, but these things are being open to us nowadays, and we have access to them. So yeah, guys, like I'm about to open up the chat and the questions. You guys can unmute and let me know if you have any questions. Appreciate you guys for sticking through with me today. Like I said, over at hardonbreak.com, under the herbs tab, the 3 little bars you'll see, you can go ahead and sign up for one of those, for the package. If you do want the 2 herbs package, just inbox me or in the chat here, just let me know, and I'll get to you at another time to get you signed up for that. But let's talk about what herbs you think would be good for you, what you're looking for. Anybody? What's going on, Chase? I would like some feedback from you. I know you've been on the Fadagio. How's everything going with you? You feeling better these days? Okay.
Hey, what's up, Nakata? It's been a minute since I got back on the Fadagio program. That's why I was interested in tonight's masterclass. Particularly, I think the seed cleaner and the prostate cleaner would be something that I feel would be of value to me. I mean, one particular thing that's been bugging me for a while now is, I consider myself a relatively healthy person. I work out a lot. I'm very active. Been starting to go to the gym again, in addition to skiing almost every day of the week. Eat a pretty healthy diet. Still learning to cut back on the vegetable oils and the highly processed carbs where I can. And I drink about 1 gallon of water every day, but sometimes I don't feel like I'm relieving myself enough, or that I'm pissing myself enough, or, peeing enough, despite how much fluids I put in my body every day. In addition to, other health problems I've been experiencing in that realm. So,
yeah. You're saying that you drink an adequate amount of water daily, and you feel like you're not urine or number 2ing enough?
Yeah, I mean, and plus I don't feel like my urinary stream is as strong and as fluid as it once was as well. So that's why I was thinking, I don't know, perhaps the seed cleaner or the prostate cleaner would be of some value to me.
You know what you got to consider, we've spoken before. I'll get with you in a second, Tony, is that you do a lot of this work that you're doing every day, including the skiing. You got to make sure you do need to be on adaptogenics, because these physical exertion, all the working out, will lead to cortisol release. And actually, I didn't say much about that, but alluding to stress, like cortisol release, like sometimes some guys are in the gym just a little bit too much. It has to be done, like you got to start breathing, you got to start doing some smoother flows. Sometimes it can't always be the high exertion, because in some ways your excess testosterone, which is an issue sometimes, will turn into DHT. So it'll get bonded and turn into DHT. And this is when you deal with the male pattern baldness, like I've got going on, where it's like, I'm not going to go bald, but it's like you could see one area is lighter than the other. And this could be too much testosterone, but too much cortisol can be an issue to what you're dealing with as well too. But Chase, I would definitely think that the prostate builder for what you're dealing with would be good, and further reduction of the carbs. But yeah, and the seed cleaner itself, because that's such an all-around good thing, like you will definitely feel it. But as far as the volume and any urinary issues that you may be dealing with, I would definitely say that the prostate builder would be ideal for you. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, that's something that I've been highly considering after listening to your lecture for the last hour. So
did you finish the Fadagio?
Yeah, I did. I also looked up some reviews on it, and I heard that it probably would have been a better idea to cycle with the Fadagio, whereas, you know, I took it, you know, as directed for about 30 days straight, or however much the supply I was given. So I don't know if cycling would have, you know, I would have found better results from cycling with the Fadagio as opposed to just taking it on a regular basis like I was.
Speaking of which, I do have a cycle on the seed cleaner as well. So it's it could be a week on. I recommend 4 days and 4 days on, 3 days off. But it could be a week on, week off if you want to go that hard. But the 4 days on, 4 days off is pretty good as well. So the cycling, I do believe cycling and a good dietary combination is really good. But you want to be mindful also, Chase, that you're not revving up your cortisol levels. You know, I don't know what the regular stress load is like, but the physical stress load, I know it's heavy because it's every day added, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be mindful of that as well, and do some experiments. Just try to test, especially when you get the herbs in. You're going to see, that's the thing, you're going to notice a big difference almost right away with the Prostate Builder and with the seed cleaner, because it does affect the mood so much, but it affects the mood in a good way, because we're talking about luteinizing hormones, you know what I'm saying, oxytocin, and the various other things that are constituents between the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. So those are being affected when you're dealing with the seed cleaner as well. So definitely, so you think you want to get one or two?
I was kind of thinking too, the Prostate Builder and the seed cleaner.
Okay.
I feel like would be up my alley.
Okay, so I'll also build the two program for you, and I'll get back with you. Got any more questions on that?
Not at the moment, no.
All right, no problem. My brother Tony.
Hey, good evening, Nakata. How's it going? All right. I didn't hear you, but I guess you can hear me.
Sorry about that. Yes.
There you go.
It's going pretty
All
good,
right.
man. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you for the program. You know, I think a men's wellness club is just an awesome concept. You know, a lot of times, a lot of the impetus is placed on women in terms of their health and, you know, all elements of it. But sometimes men, we think we have it all together, but we can use a lot of help also. So
Absolutely.
thank you for that. Only thing I wanted to ask was, you know, I do consider myself relatively healthy, relatively speaking. I'll be 54 this year. Great shape, great energy. You know, I do the things that I need to do, but I am noticing that over the last maybe 5 to 6 years, my midsection, for the first 45 years, I never even thought about ab work or midsection. But over the last 5 years, I'm noticing that I'm working extra to maintain my midsection. So I was just wondering, do the herbs or diet, or, you know, can you provide any insight on as to why when men get older, sometimes the midsection kind of gets away a little bit?
Yeah, well, you know, generally speaking, it what I've noticed is a carb thing. It's two things. Like this is, you know, I'm an avid cleanser, and I know you are too. And one of the things that I've incorporated into my cleansing regimen these days is not what's it called? Enemas, self-administered enema. And I know you're familiar with the colonics as well, but I do enemas as well too. So like when I do enemas consistently and I still find myself with a belly, is usually when I'm over consuming carbs or if I'm having any kind of digestive issue. But what is known is when the weight starts sticking around, it is usually attributed to a slower metabolism as well as decreasing testosterone levels, because the fat is just sticking around. And then, you know, the aromatase will take the fat and just distribute it in some places. But it just depends on, you know, what kind of midsection you're talking about. Like, you know, I never known you to have no gut.
Right. And I don't. It's probably, I'm a little probably self-conscious. It's not bad, but it's just I'm noticing it myself. So it's not out of control or anything, but I got to work a lot harder.
Well, what I would say is, which is, you know, sometimes hard for many to do, is you got to be more conscious of the carb intake, as well as the oil intake. I think that's a tough one in some cases. And, to really monitor depends on, what you eat on a daily basis. But if you were to consider a very low carb, no grain kind of lifestyle, I'm sure you'd see differences almost immediately. And the other thing too is when you have stimulants, herbal stimulants in particular, that stimulate testosterone, it's not going to allow for, aromatase is not going to really be there to convert fat to convert testosterone to estrogen, so to speak. So you're basically fighting it, but with the herbs and with the stimulants. So it's the endocrine or the nervous system that needs just a little bit more toning, as well as there could be just other things in there. But usually, bro, it's the carbs. It's usually the carbs. Like I found myself, I didn't even see how much quinoa I was eating at one point, man. I was eating that stuff. And then I was like, damn, like I would eat the equivalent of somewhere around 80 grams of carbs per. And I've never been a carb counter. But after my cousin went through what he went through with the insulin, and I'm like, damn, like I can be a pre-diabetic just because of genetics and excessive use of carbs. So if you've got, and here's the thing, even if you don't do excessive grains and rice and starches or whatever the case is, right? If you just do it every so often, the spikes in insulin, even if the spikes are not like detrimental to yourself, it could be a part of the reason why you're having these issues as well too, like the extra weight is sticking around. So in some cases, what someone like you can do is experiment with 2 meals a day or OMAD or 1 meal a day. You understand? And see how that works for you. But I'm sure, it's not excessive. And if it does become excessive, I would say check the vegetable oil intake as well. Get a little bit stricter on it. Switch up the protocol a little bit, and understand that there are good fats to be had. Have them in their most holistic space. But definitely one of the big things I would say is carb removal as much as you can. If you're gonna have some carbs, make sure it's more protein carbs. You know what I mean? Like the quinoa, so to speak. Don't overdo it, but like, it's also a protein kind of a carb rather than something that, has a GI index that comes back and turns into sugar, which eventually spikes the insulin, which brings down other hormone operations, so to speak.
Okay, perfect. And I am interested in the 2-herb package, so definitely get back with me as soon as you can. I'd like to definitely do that.
Yes, sir. I will tonight.